Your life is no longer your own. You are now a ripple in the great, still lake of the Forbidden City, one that must never send waves. Every movement, every breath, every glance is scripted, rehearsed, and watched. There is no room for error. The fate of your family, the honor of your ancestors, and the delicate balance of the imperial court all rest upon your trembling shoulders. The eunuch's voice, though soft, cuts through the air like a knife. You must never look directly at His Majesty. Your eyes belong to the floor, to the hem of your robe, to the patterns in the stone. To look up is to invite suspicion. To be noticed is to risk everything. You nod, feeling the weight of this first rule settle onto your chest like a heavy stone. In your old life, your gaze was your own. You could catch your mother's gentle smile across the dinner table or watch the swallows dart above the rooftops at dusk. Now, your world will be limited to what you can see at your feet. The eunuch continues, "You will speak only when spoken to. You will answer questions with humility, never with pride. You must not volunteer thoughts, opinions, or complaints. The palace has ears in every corner and tongues that wag for sport. A careless word can become a storm." Again, you nod. In the courtyards of your childhood, laughter was a currency. Here, silence is gold. You wonder how long it will take before you forget the sound of your own voice. There are rules for how you walk, how you stand, how you sleep, the eunuch intones. You must move with grace and quiet dignity, neither too quickly nor too slowly. Your hands must be folded, your head bowed. Even in dreams, you must remember who and where you are. You try to picture yourself moving with such precision, but your limbs feel clumsy and foreign. The silk of your robe is heavy and unfamiliar. The ornate hairpins tug at your scalp, a constant reminder of your new station. There will be rivalries, the eunuch warns. Other girls, just like you, will see you as both sister and enemy. Trust is a rare jewel in the Forbidden City, and betrayal is never far. The Emperor's favor is fickle, and jealousy grows like weeds in the shadowed gardens. You must be vigilant. A careless friendship may be your undoing. You remember the stories whispered by the older girls, tales of poisoned tea, of secret notes left beneath pillows, of alliances forged and broken in the blink of an eye. It is not just the Emperor's pleasure you must survive, but the labyrinth of intrigue that coils through the palace like a serpent. Your name may change, the eunuch says, his tone matter-of-fact. The Emperor may give you a new title, or the court may assign you a number. Who you were before, the daughter, the child, the dreamer, will be left outside these walls. You are, from this night forward, whoever the Emperor desires you to be. A chill runs through you. You try to cling to memories of home, the laughter of your siblings, the warmth of your mother's hand, the sweet taste of ripe peaches in summer. But already, those memories feel distant, like a dream you are waking from. The eunuch pauses, studying your face for a moment. You see no malice there, only resignation. The weariness of someone who has guided too many girls down this same corridor. He lowers his voice even further. There are secrets in this palace, secrets you must never seek out. Doors you must never open, questions you must never ask. Curiosity is a dangerous luxury. The walls are thick, but nothing is truly hidden. If you hear something in the night, if you see shadows where there should be none, forget them. For your own sake, forget. Your heart pounds faster. The Forbidden City has always seemed a place of wonder, a golden labyrinth of beauty and tradition. But now you glimpse the darkness that pools beneath the lacquered floors and behind the painted screens. The eunuch straightens, his task nearly complete. Tonight, you will be cleansed and prepared. You will be dressed in robes of red and gold, your hair arranged in the style of the court. You will wait in silence until you are summoned. When you are called, you must walk with dignity and humility. You must remember the rules, every one. And above all, never forget that your life is not your own. He steps back, fading into shadow, leaving you alone in the corridor. The silence presses in, thick and suffocating, broken only by the distant sound of water and the muffled steps of other concubines in waiting. You realize, with a mix of dread and awe, that you are standing at the threshold of a world both exquisite and terrifying. You take a slow, steady breath, trying to calm the storm inside you. You are no longer a child. You are no longer free. You are a piece on the emperor's chessboard. Delicate yet indispensable, beautiful yet disposable. In the days and nights to come, you will learn to navigate the shifting tides of favor and suspicion, to hide your hopes behind a mask of serenity, to find small moments of solace in a world that demands your silence. You will discover allies in unexpected places and enemies where you least expect them. You will learn the language of glances and gestures, the subtle art of survival, and perhaps, in the quiet hours before dawn, you will remember who you once were. A girl with dreams as wide as the sky above Beijing. But for now, you step forward, into the heart of the Forbidden City, into the life that has been chosen for you. The doors close behind you, and the world you knew is gone. The sun has set, and your future waits in the shadows. In the shadowed halls of the Imperial Palace, where silence is as thick as the gilded tapestries that line the walls, every gesture, every breath is dictated by a set of unyielding rules. These are not merely customs, but the foundation upon which the emperor's absolute power is built. An intricate dance of submission and dominance, rehearsed by every woman who enters his presence. The first and most sacred rule: never turn your back to the emperor. This is a command rooted in ancient paranoia, a relic from centuries when assassination was an ever-present threat. The emperor, perched atop the pinnacle of authority, trusts no one completely, not even those summoned for his most intimate moments. To present your back is to present a potential danger. Thus, you must always face him, even as you undress layer by layer. The act becomes an odd choreography, a sideways waltz that women practice until it is second nature. Steps are measured, feet gliding with the whispered grace of dancers, so that the emperor's gaze is never lost, his vulnerability never exposed. This ritual, born of suspicion, becomes a daily performance, a constant reminder of the precariousness of power. Silence is not just golden, it is mandatory. The second rule decrees that you may never speak unless spoken to, and even then, your words must be carefully chosen. Women refer to themselves only in the third person, calling themselves this lowly slave or your humble servant. In doing so, they erase their own identities, submerging the self beneath layers of humility and deference. Over time, this habit seeps into the mind, reshaping thought and instinct until one's own name feels foreign. Submission is no longer a conscious act, but a reflex, an involuntary response to authority. The emperor's voice becomes the only sound that matters, and your own words are but echoes granted permission to exist. Perhaps most jarring is the third rule: never make eye contact. Averting your eyes is not enough. You must fix your gaze just below his chin, even in the closest proximity. This rule is most strictly enforced during moments of intimacy, when vulnerability is at its peak. The denial of eye contact is a denial of connection. It is a barrier that transforms a human interaction into an impersonal transaction. To look directly into the emperor's eyes is to challenge his authority, to risk recognition of your shared humanity. The consequences are severe: banishment to the eunuch quarters, where the discarded and the shamed are sent to live out their days in obscurity. Thus, every woman learns to master the art of looking without seeing, of being present without being acknowledged. Silence, too, is demanded during acts of closeness. No spontaneous noise is permitted. Not a gasp, not a sigh, not even the catch of breath that betrays pleasure or pain. The women must control even their most basic responses, disciplining the body to remain silent beneath his touch. This total control is the emperor's ultimate assertion of dominance. It is not enough to possess a body, he must also command its every reaction. For many women, the only means of survival is to dissociate, to retreat inward until the body becomes a distant shell. Over time, some lose their voices entirely, as if the silence imposed upon them has seeped into their very souls and stolen the power of speech. The emperor's pleasure is paramount, and so the fifth rule is strictly observed. He must always climax last. His release is not merely personal, it is a symbolic act, believe is. Within the walls of the imperial palace, The rules governing the lives of concubines are not simply written edicts, they are etched into the psyche, enforced not by mere words, but by the unrelenting pressure of survival. Among the most draconian mandates is the requirement to report any sign of pregnancy without delay, even if the suspicion is faint or unconfirmed. This rule is not mere protocol. It is a matter of life and death. Failure to report a pregnancy, whether due to uncertainty, fear, or hope, can be met with the harshest of consequences, often resulting in execution. Yet, a false report, perhaps made in desperation or error, brings its own punishment. Permanent scars, both physical and psychological, a mark of shame that never fades. This ever-present threat transforms the body into an object of obsessive surveillance. Concubines learn to monitor every nuance, every hint of change, an irregularity in the menstrual cycle, a fleeting bout of nausea, a subtle shift in appetite. What would be a private, hopeful secret in another world becomes a source of relentless anxiety. Each twinge is scrutinized, every symptom cataloged, turning the rhythm of the body into a source of paranoia. The line between vigilance and obsession blurs, for the cost of a missed sign or a wrong call is ruinous. Should a pregnancy be confirmed or even suspected, the woman is swiftly isolated. The world narrows to a single room, her every movement observed, her every word recorded. The rationale is clear. The potential heir to the throne must be protected at all costs, shielded not only from physical harm, but from political intrigue. Yet this protection is itself a form of imprisonment. The pregnant concubine becomes both precious and powerless, surrounded by attendants, guards, and midwives, her agency stripped away. Freedom shrinks to nothing, replaced by the unyielding gaze of the court. Within this atmosphere of suspicion and control, hierarchies among concubines are meticulously maintained and ruthlessly exploited. Rarely is a concubine summoned alone. Often, several are called to attend the emperor at once. In these encounters, roles are assigned with calculated precision. One may be chosen as the lead, basking in the fleeting favor of the emperor. Another is tasked to assist, a role that demands deference and subservience. A third may be positioned to compete, subtly encouraged to win attention or affection. These orchestrated dynamics foster jealousy, sowing seeds of rivalry where friendship might otherwise grow. Alliances are tenuous, always vulnerable to the shifting winds of favor. Moments of camaraderie are weaponized, used as leverage or evidence of betrayal. No relationship is safe from suspicion. The palace becomes a battleground, not of swords and shields, but of glances, whispers, and calculated gestures. Trust is a luxury few can afford, and friendships are often sacrificed on the altar of ambition and survival. Yet, the most delicate skill required is the art of emotional calibration. The emperor's moods are capricious, shifting without warning from warmth to coldness, from indulgence to wrath. To survive, a concubine must become a master of instant emotional adjustment. A single glance, a fleeting sigh, the subtlest gesture, each must be interpreted with superhuman acuity. The stakes are enormous. A misread mood can lead to punishment, disgrace, or worse. This constant vigilance demands not only emotional intelligence, but the suppression of one's own feelings. Authenticity becomes dangerous. Genuine laughter, irritation, or sorrow are liabilities. Every moment is a performance, a careful dance of deference and delight, anticipation and restraint. Over time, the boundary between the true self and the performed self dissolves. The concubine becomes a mirror, reflecting the emperor's desires and emotions while erasing her own. In this continual act of self-effacement, the cost is profound. A loss of identity, a hollowness where once there was spontaneity and joy. Adding another layer to the psychological labyrinth is the requirement for perfect memory and perfect forgetfulness. Concubines must remember every detail of their encounters with the emperor. The words exchanged, the gifts given, the nuances of tone and touch. These details are not merely sentimental, they are vital to survival. A forgotten promise, a misplaced ornament, a missed cue can become grounds for suspicion or retribution. The stakes of memory are impossibly high, Yet, at the same time, they must practice a kind of selective amnesia. Once an encounter has passed, its emotional content must be discarded, its secrets buried. To dwell on past moments is to invite longing, regret, or jealousy, emotions that are both dangerous and forbidden. This dual demand, to remember with perfect clarity and to forget with equal completeness, creates a profound psychological strain. The mind becomes fragmented, compartmentalized, divided against itself. Over time, this fragmentation can lead to dissociative disorders, the self-splinters under the weight of contradiction, the boundaries between memory and oblivion dissolving. Moments are lived and then erased, feelings are conjured and then dismissed, leaving behind an emotional wasteland. The concubine becomes a collection of roles, memories, and silences, held together by the thinnest thread of necessity. In the end, life within the palace is an elaborate game of survival, played on a field where the rules are cruel and the stakes are absolute. The requirements imposed, immediate reporting of pregnancy, navigation of complex hierarchies, flawless emotional attunement, and the impossible balance of memory and amnesia, extract a devastating toll. The cost is measured not only in lost lives and broken bodies, but in the gradual erosion of the spirit. Yet, even within these constraints, moments of resilience emerge. Some find ways to carve out small spaces of solidarity, to offer comfort in quiet words or stolen glances. Others learn to wield the very rules that oppress them, turning surveillance into strategy, rivalry into alliance, forgetfulness into freedom. For every story of despair, there is another of endurance, a testament to the capacity of the human spirit to adapt, survive, and sometimes, against all odds, to hope. The world of the imperial concubine is one of paradox and peril, where every gesture holds meaning, every emotion is policed, and every memory is both a weapon and a wound. It is a realm governed by fear, ambition, and the relentless pursuit of favor, but also by the quiet, unyielding determination to endure. In the shadow of the throne, where power is both promise and threat, the lives of these women unfold, a tapestry of sacrifice, cunning, and silent strength. In the hidden world behind palace walls, life for a concubine is a perpetual stage. Each season marks not just a change in the weather, but a transformation in the very roles these women are expected to play. During festivals, their movements must echo the themes of the celebration. At the spring festival, their embraces are meant to channel the renewal and blossoming of the earth, embodying the hope of fertility and future harvests. In the heat of summer, they must radiate warmth and vigor, becoming living symbols of strength and abundance. As autumn arrives, their gestures soften, reflecting the bounty and maturity of the season, while winter calls for a delicate kind of stillness, an embodiment of endurance and quiet power. Political anniversaries demand yet another reinvention. Here, the concubines become living metaphors for the emperor's glory, resilience, or the unity of the realm. Their performances never truly end, for reinvention is not a choice, but a demand woven into the very fabric of their existence. Yet, every act is shadowed by the constant presence of witnesses. The palace is a labyrinth of observation, where privacy is little more than an illusion. Senior concubines or trusted eunuchs may be tasked with watching, ensuring the strict adherence to ritual and decorum. Sometimes their presence is known. More often, it is suspected, a whisper of silk in the corridor, or a sudden hush outside the chamber door. The knowledge that at any moment, a pair of unseen eyes may be watching, breeds an atmosphere of perpetual vigilance. No gesture, no word, no glance escapes notice. This system of total surveillance is designed not only to maintain order, but to instill a deeper, more insidious discipline. The women internalize their roles so thoroughly that even in solitude, they remain actors, never knowing when the audience will appear. Gifts, ostensibly tokens of favor, become instruments of subtle manipulation. A bolt of rare silk, a necklace of precious stones, each is received with outward gratitude, but beneath the surface, the true cost is understood. Such gifts are laden with invisible strings, binding the recipient in unspoken obligations. To accept a lavish present from the emperor, or a powerful courtier, is to become indebted, expected to repay the favor in ways that may never be articulated but are always implied. The arrival of a gift can provoke envy and resentment among the other women, sowing discord and suspicion. It is a silent contest where each token of affection is both a prize and a trap, ensnaring the recipient in a web of invisible debts that can never fully be repaid. The stakes of obedience extend far beyond the palace itself. Every concubine knows that her actions reverberate through the lives of her family outside the palace walls. The well-being, honor, and even the very survival of parents, siblings, and children are tied to her conduct. Any hint of disloyalty or disrespect toward the emperor does not simply result in her own disgrace, it brings shame and danger upon her entire lineage. Relatives may be threatened, exiled, or worse, should she fail to meet expectations. This ever-present threat is a powerful motivator, ensuring that the women remain vigilant, their loyalty sealed not just by self-interest, but by love and fear for those they left behind. As the years pass, the relentless demands of youth and beauty become impossible to ignore. To age within the palace is to experience a kind of living death, a gradual process of fading into invisibility. Yet, even this is governed by strict rules. Aging must be done gracefully, never openly. The pursuit of youth becomes a dangerous obsession, leading many concubines to undertake perilous beauty rituals. The application of toxic powders to the skin, starvation diets, or the use of untested herbal concoctions in the hope of preserving their allure just a little while longer. The older concubines, having survived longer than most, accept their diminished roles with dignity, but their work is not done. They are expected to mentor the younger women, imparting the hard-won wisdom of survival, teaching them the subtle arts of performance, discretion, and self-preservation. In training their replacements, they ensure the continuity of the system, even as their own relevance slips quietly away. This world, dazzling on the surface, is built on an intricate lattice of control, surveillance, and psychological maneuvering. Every ritual, every privilege, every punishment is designed to maintain the emperor's power, not only over the women themselves, but over the court, the dynasty, and the very narrative of history. The concubines are both ornaments and instruments, their bodies and minds shaped to serve the shifting needs of the moment. Their performances are not just for entertainment or tradition, but for the affirmation of the imperial order itself. The cycle is endless. With each new season, the roles change. The performances are refreshed, and the stakes remain as high as ever. The women learn to read the smallest signs, a glance from a rival, a word of praise from a superior, the arrival of a particularly costly gift. They become adept at navigating the labyrinth of obligation and favor, mastering the art of survival in a world where every advantage is double-edged. Behind the silks and jewels, behind the rituals and the pageantry, lies a story of endurance and adaptation. The concubines are not simply passive victims, but active participants in the palace drama, each finding her own way to carve out a measure of security, influence, or peace. Some become celebrated for their beauty or wit, others for their loyalty or cunning. All, however, must grapple with the knowledge that their fate, and the fate of those they love, hangs on the slenderest of threads. The passage of time is both enemy and ally. For those who manage to avoid scandal or disgrace, age brings a certain measure of freedom, a loosening of the bonds of expectation, a chance to find purpose in guiding the next generation. Yet the price is steep: the loss of visibility, the gradual fading of favor, the bittersweet acceptance of a role that is both vital and expendable. In the end, the story of the concubines is one of complexity and contradiction. A world where beauty is both shield and weapon, where power is gained and lost in 1,000 unseen ways, and where survival is the highest art of all. Their legacy endures not just in the annals of history, but in the lessons of resilience, adaptability, and quiet strength that echo through the ages. The final chapter in the life of an imperial concubine arrives not with triumph, but with the slow approach of death. Death not only of the emperor, but of identity, of hope, and of the very self. From the first day a woman enters the palace, she is forced to prepare for an end that is not her own. The emperor's mortality shadows their every moment, for when he dies, the world of his women collapses. Some are asked, though it is never truly a choice, to volunteer for burial with him, to descend into the darkness of the earth as a final, macabre act of loyalty. Others are condemned to a living death, permanent widowhood, sealed in the cold halls of the palace, forbidden to remarry or return to the world. The preparation for such fates is constant and consuming. Women write letters that will never be sent, compose poetry to mythologize their own sacrifice, and practice the rituals of grief long before the need arises. Their lives become a rehearsal for death, each moment shaped by the knowledge that their fate is not their own. Yet, even within these walls of sorrow, resistance finds a way. The human spirit, battered but unbroken, seeks tiny cracks in the fortress of despair. Women create secret codes and hidden languages, woven into songs, gestures, or the careful arrangement of flowers. Through these subtle acts, they share hope and solidarity, building invisible bridges between isolated souls. Some attempt daring escapes, risking everything for a sliver of freedom, while others guard hidden pregnancies, nurturing life in defiance of a system that seeks to control even the act of birth. These acts of resistance, though often small and unseen, are acts of survival, proof that even in the darkest circumstances, the will to live and to remember endures. In the palace, love is a paradox, forbidden and demanded in equal measure. Every concubine must perform love with flawless conviction, weaving devotion into every glance and gesture. Yet to truly feel love is dangerous, a path to heartbreak and ruin. Those who allow themselves to care too deeply are broken by the cruelty of separation, by the knowledge that their affection can be discarded at a whim. Others build walls around their hearts, suppressing all feeling until they become hollow, mere echoes of the people they once were. Between these extremes, a few struggle to maintain a fragile balance, living in a constant state of tension and self-denial. Their reward is neither happiness nor peace, but the slow erosion of sanity, as they teeter on the edge between feeling too much and not feeling at all. When the emperor dies, the system reveals its final cruelty, the disposability of women. In life, they were cherished or envied, the center of intrigue and desire. In death, they become threats, potential sources of scandal, bearers of secrets, reminders of a past that the new order wishes to erase. Some are sent to distant temples, cloistered away from the world, and stripped of all possessions, their former lives erased as if they never existed. Others simply disappear, their fates unknown, their stories lost to time. Still others remain in the palace, reduced to the status of servants, living out their days in obscurity and humiliation. Their suffering serves as a warning to the next generation. Love the emperor, serve the empire, but never forget that you are replaceable. The final rule is the most insidious: forgetting. The women of the palace are commanded to erase all memory of their suffering, to become blank slates for the next ruler's desires. Official histories omit their names, stories, and pain, reducing them to footnotes or cautionary tales. But true forgetting is impossible. The memories of fear, longing, betrayal, and loss linger in the body, etched into muscle and bone. Invisible scars remain, shaping every gesture and thought. The women who survive are not truly alive. They are trained shadows, moving through the world without substance or voice. Their pain is never acknowledged, their resilience never celebrated. They become living ghosts, reminders of a history that refuses to be forgotten. Yet even in this erasure, there is a quiet form of endurance. The letters unwritten, the songs unsung, the poems composed in the stillness of the night, all these become a secret archive of resistance and survival. Though their stories are buried, they are not entirely lost. In the cracks of official memory, in the whispered tales passed from mother to daughter, the truth persists. The sacrifices, the quiet rebellions, the moments of stolen joy, all live on, hidden but indelible. This endgame, so carefully orchestrated by the palace, is ultimately incomplete. The women it seeks to destroy or erase are not so easily vanquished. Through small acts of remembrance, and the stubborn refusal to be wholly forgotten, they reclaim a measure of dignity. Their suffering is not in vain. It becomes a testament to the resilience of those who endure, even when the world insists they are disposable. To live as a concubine was to live with the constant threat of erasure, of being written out of one's own story. But even in the face of death, disposability, and forced amnesia, the women of the palace found ways to survive. Their resistance, though often invisible, is real. Their stories, though buried, continue to shape the world in ways both seen and unseen. They remind us that even in the most oppressive circumstances, the human spirit endures, clinging to memory, to hope, and to the possibility of being remembered. Thus, the endgame of the Imperial Harem is less a conclusion than a transformation. Out of the ashes of loss and the silence of forgetting, something endures. A whisper, a song, a hidden letter. These fragments are enough. They are the proof that, no matter how thoroughly the world seeks to erase them, the women of the palace were here. They lived, they loved, they suffered, and they survived. Their shadows stretch across history, silent but unbroken, waiting for the day when their stories will finally be heard. You walk the corridor once more. Though your steps are heavier now, your movements measured and practiced. The walls, faded but unchanged, bear the faint echoes of laughter, of weeping, of whispered secrets and warnings passed from one trembling voice to another. The same fountains trickle in their alcoves, their gentle streams masking the softer, more desperate sounds that linger here. As you pass, you wonder how many before you have traced this same path, their fingers brushing the cool stone, their eyes searching for an exit that never appeared. Time has moved on, and you have moved with it, though not as you once were. The innocence you carried, delicate and bright, has long since been scraped away by the unrelenting grind of the system. The memories of your first days here, full of hope, confusion, and the pain of betrayal, are faded, distant, like a story told to a stranger in another life. You remember, faintly, the girl you once were, wide-eyed and afraid, desperate for guidance from someone who seemed older, wiser, and impossibly distant. Now, you are the one who stands in that place, the one the new girl seeks with pleading eyes. She arrives, nervous and uncertain, her footsteps echoing in the corridor as yours once did. Her hands tremble as she clutches her books to her chest, her mouth pressed into a thin line of determination. You watch her from the shadows, remembering the weight of those first moments when everything was new and terrifying. When the rules were unwritten but absolute, enforced not by words but by glances, by silences, by the subtle tightening of the chain around your heart. You approach her, your voice soft and even, honed by years of practice. You explain the rules, the ones you hated, the ones you broke and were punished for, the ones you now enforce with the same quiet certainty as those who came before. She nods, her eyes wide with fear and hope, seeking reassurance in your words. You give her what she needs: comfort, guidance, the illusion that she can survive if only she follows the path you lay before her. In your mind, you tell yourself that you are helping her, that you are protecting her from the worst of it, that you are different from those who hurt you. But each word, each gesture, binds her more tightly to the system that consumed you. You see the chains in her eyes, the same ones that once bound your spirit, the same ones you have learned not to feel anymore. The corridor is the same, its stones worn smooth by generations of footsteps, its shadows unchanging. The fountains still flow, their waters clear and cold, washing away the traces of those who have passed through. The whispers persist, barely audible, carried by the currents of fear and resignation that swirl through this place. The names may change, the faces may blur, but the cycle endures. You understand now, with a clarity that aches in your bones, the most terrible truth of all. The system survives because those who endure it become its next enforcers. It is not the faceless administrators, nor the distant architects, who maintain its power. It is you, and others like you, who have learned to suppress your pain, to bury your defiance, to teach the next in line how to survive by surrendering. The lessons you pass on, meant to protect, become the very chains that bind. There is no rebellion here, only adaptation. The system does not require your approval, only your participation. Each time you repeat the rituals, each time you instruct the new girl in the ways of survival, you reinforce the boundaries that once held you captive. Survival, you realize, is not about escape, but about transformation. To endure, you must become something less than what you were. Less hopeful, less vulnerable, less human. You tell yourself that you are only doing what is necessary, that you are making the best of a cruel situation. You remind yourself of what happened to those who resisted, whose names are whispered as warnings, whose fates are sealed in silence. You convince yourself that forgetting is a kindness, that distance is protection, that numbness is strength. But in the quiet moments, when the corridor is empty and the fountains murmur to themselves, you remember flashes of what you once felt. The anger, the longing, the desperate hope that someone might break the cycle. You remember the warmth of friendship, the sting of betrayal, the ache of longing for a world beyond these walls. You remember, for a moment, that you were once human. The cycle never ends. The system endures, not because it is invincible, but because it is self-perpetuating. It feeds on the pain of the young, transforming them into guardians of its own cruelty. The suffering you endured becomes the lesson you teach, the armor you wear, the burden you pass on. You are both victim and accomplice, both prisoner and warden. In time, the new girl will learn what you have learned. She will adapt. She will survive. She will forget. She will walk the corridor with measured steps, her eyes hardening, her heart closing against the memories of softer days. She will become the one who teaches the next girl, and the cycle will continue, unbroken and unchallenged. And so, survival becomes a kind of erasure. To persist within the system, you must forget the parts of yourself that once yearned for freedom, for kindness, for a world beyond whispered chains and silent fountains. You must become the system, enforcing its rules with the same cold efficiency as those who shaped you. In the end, the most terrible truth is not the suffering you endured, but the transformation it demanded. To survive is to change, to forget, to become something less than what you were. The corridor remains, the fountains flow, the whispers echo. The cycle never ends. And with each passing year, another girl learns to survive by forgetting that she was ever human at all.